Hey, it's Ratchet. I got started early in the morning. I was so excited about making my butternut squash ale today that I forgot and started without you. Tell you what I got going on over here. I took my Blickman boil maker pot, which homebrewers, excellent brew pot. Of course, I'm using the Blickman burner as well with the leg extensions. Great piece of equipment, one of the best investments I've ever spent money on for my home brewing. Over here I have a mash tun made out of an old keg. I actually got this from one of the homebrew club members, a guy named Jesse, really cool dude, makes great beer. And what I have in here are my grains. My grain bill, it's on the recipe underneath this video on the website. And I don't know why I'm uncovering it, because I need to keep it nice at a regular temperature. Pretty intensive grain bill. What I did is I warmed the water up to 163, mixed it in with the grains, and it's holding steady at 152, which is perfect, which is exactly where I want it for this recipe. But let me take the camera over there and show you what I got. Here are my grains. I'm just going to give it a quick stir. I don't want to do, I only stir it twice during the whole mashing process. And what I did with my flaked oats, because no one likes a stuck mash, stuck sparge. Stuck sparges suck. I only had one in my life and I never want another one. So if you're using any gummy type of grains, such as rye, or in this case this is flaked oats, I just put it in a mesh bag, it does the same thing, but it doesn't stick up your sparge. At the bottom of this mash tun I have a false bottom, comes out that spigot clear wort. Well, almost clear. We have to do a vorlauf, and I'll explain that in a little bit. I just want to give this a quick stir. I don't want to lose too much of the temperature, and I'm going to cover it back up. I got about half an hour to go on this. And what's happening right now is, for those who aren't homebrewers who are just interested in this vlog, we have conversion of the starches. The malt has starch at a certain temperature range. The starch, and if you look at the brewometer, it will tell you closely what temperatures do what. Right now we have a starch conversion going on. It's going to turn all that starch into yummy sugars that our yeast can eat off of. And it's really early in the morning. I popped out of bed and started this process, so I haven't even ate yet. I'm going to go eat breakfast, and we're going to come back in half an hour when the next step of the process is. Okay, now our mash is done. It's been sitting in 152 degree temperature water for an hour. Hopefully all the starches have converted to sugars, and I'm going to check that right now. Now there's an iodine test you can do with a few drops of iodine, but I found what's most reliable to me is the taste test. Of course you can do specific gravity readings at this time as well. Sugary. That's what you want to look for, sweetness. If you taste it and it's sweet, good chances are you have a good conversion. I am going to do the iodine test, a little bit of it off camera. Just, you know, I like to make sure, but I can definitely taste the sugar there, so I think I'm all good. Yum. What I'm going to do now, while I got the sparge water getting ready in the background, is I'm going to do what's called a vorlauf. Now, with vorlauf, what you do is you get it going really slowly. And what that does is a lot of the loose particles and things of that nature are going to go out first, and you do this really slowly. I'm going to dump it back on top of the grain bed, and the grain bed's going to act like a filter out some of that loose particles. So while I'm doing that, I got the sparge water getting ready in the background, and you'll see just in a moment what I'm going to do with that. Okay, now I'm going to start my sparge. The trick with the sparge is to get the outflow from the mash tun to match the outflow from your hot water tank. I have 8 gallons of hot water up in there. I got a colander, and what you're doing with the sparge is you're getting ready to put it in the brew pot, but you're also rinsing the grains. I'm rinsing all the sugars out of the grains, and you want your sparge water to be right below 168. I forgot why you don't want to go above 168. Sure, you can find that on the internet. But we're just going to rinse the grains, and we've got the outflow and the inflow almost about the same. So it's just making some minor adjustments here and there. Now what I'm going to do, once this gets a little bit level, I'm going to shut the valve off. I'm going to take it over here and gently dump it in my brew pot until I do that all the way till I'm out of water and fogged up the lens. There we go. Until I'm out of water in my hot water tank. And then nothing else is pouring out of there. Once I get a few gallons in my brew pot, I'm going to go ahead and start the heat up. But once I'm done with this, it's just a matter of boil, throwing in hops at the right time, which we'll go through, and all the adjuncts that I'm going to use, like my butternut squash, and then we boil for an hour. So right now I'm going to do the Sparge. It's going to take me a while, probably, I don't know, good half an hour to an hour, and just I'll be back with the next step. Okay, we have all our wort that was sparged in the brew pot, and we just now achieved boil. So this is when I'm going to add my adjuncts to this boil, my hops, my first edition of hops and whatnot. And let's go ahead and do that. Remember the butternut squash we prepared the other day? And there we go. Butternut squash. I got some ginger in there. I got some fresh whole leaf Williamette hops from my buddy Jim at Brushy Mountain Farms. And we're just going to put that in with the mesh bag right there in the boil. Stir it up some. Now when you first start the boil, this foam on top, you really got to be careful boil over. You do not want a yucky, messy boil over. But once it gets going, I found that I can pretty much walk away from it, not really have to pay it much mind, except for when I put another addition of hops in, it might boil over a little bit or get up. But basically, this is going to do its thing for 60 minutes. I'm going to go set my boil timer. I have some additions of some hops and some spices that I'm going to put in this at certain times, and there goes the camera fogging up again. But yeah, I'll be back when it's time to make the next addition of hops. Right now, got some fresh whole leaf Williamette, some butternut squash, and about half my ginger. And we're just going to let it boil. Now, in all my haste of getting all this brew preparation done, I forgot to tell you the first rule of homebrewing. Something that every homebrewer's got to remember, and I got to make more of an effort to remember. But the first rule is relax and have a homebrew. And while this boils, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Cheers. Oh, that's my alarm. That means it's time to put in the next edition of hops. Alright, well, here's what I'm going to put in the second to last edition. I've got my brown sugar here with my vorlauf tablets and my coriander, ground coriander. And I got a hot bag full of some whole leaf Williamette. This recipe usually calls for saws at the end, but I had so much Williamette, and Homebrew Shop only had 1 ounce of saws, but I am going to add saws in 15 minutes. But I've got my chopped ginger. And I just come right over here to the brew pot, lap that sucker right in, get my old mash paddle, start stirring, and drop that stuff right in there, get it all in there. And it smells so incredibly delicious. I'm just going to stir that in, reset my timer for 15 minutes when I put in my next addition, which would be the last of the spices, the nutmeg, the last addition of hops, and my cinnamon. So about 15 minutes, I'll be back to do that. Well, here's my alarm again. You know what that means? We're almost done. At least the boil. Alright. Here's the last edition of the boil. You got 5 minutes left of the boil, and I am putting in Saw's hop pellets. I got some cinnamon in there, some nutmeg, give it that spiced, pumpkin-y type of pie flavor. And I'm just going to dump that right in, stir it up real good. Then reset my timer for 5 minutes. Oh wow, that smells like a pie. Oh yeah, that smells good. Just stir it in real good. Reset my timer for 5 minutes. Then we're going to cut the flame off of it. We're going to whirlpool it real good. I'm going to get these big mesh bags out of there. Let them drip through this strainer I have. Get a good whirlpool going, and while I do that, I'm going to set up my wort chiller. I'm going to run to the top of the hill to this convenience store and get some ice, because I like to use ice when I go through a wort chiller, but then I like to get it down further by putting ice around the carboys. You'll see that here in a moment. But next step is to cut off the boil, take out these giant bags of yumminess, and give it a good whirlpool to get all the stuff into the middle so it doesn't clog up when it's going through the lines. And let me go get those lines ready. Alright, it's been 5 minutes. Now, basically all I do is cut the gas. Cut the gas off. It's still going pretty good. I'm going to get my squash out and drain into there. Once that cools down a little bit after I go inside and sanitize my spoon again, I'll get a good stir going on, get the whirlpool going on it. So I'll be back when it's time to cool down. All right, we're now at our last part of our brew day. We're going from the brew pot all the way to the March pump, which is pushing the hot wort through my Chill Hog 4000 from rebelbrewer.com. Great chill plate. I'm keeping it under 80, so I'm doing really good on my brew temperatures. And then it goes down the line into the carboy. And like I said, I got the carboys iced down pretty well, so I like to get the temperature down to 60 so I can pitch the yeast to it. Once I pitch the yeast, it will start fermenting, and I will take some video of it fermenting away happily to end this little video with. With your excess water that comes out of the chiller, you can clean. I'm using it to clean my mash tun over there. And that's it for the brew day. Okay, there it is, happily fermenting away. It's actually a few days later. I forgot to record right afterwards, but you can see the fermentation is starting to go down. In another week, I'll go ahead and put it into a secondary as such, and let it settle out for another week or so, and then I'll bottle or keg it. That's butternut squash ale as well. It looks pretty dark in the carboy, but once you pour it out, it's a nice golden color, dark gold, kind of like an amberish. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video on how to make butternut squash ale. Please leave a comment on my website if you view this video, ratchetbrews.com. And if you make this recipe, let me know. I'm interested to see how it turns out. Of course, you can use different types of yeast, different types of hops, and it will give it a completely different flavor. Alright, cheers.